This is Ben Heron. I'm Stockton Slack, and this is John Barfus, and we are presenting to risk management today. Our purpose was to identify low light areas on USU campus and make some suggestions in order to improve campus safety by analyzing the lighting structure over campus. Now, this is our operational procedure, and as you can see, this is the area that we chose to survey. We used an Autel Evo drone, and we also used the drone deploy software in order to create a map of campus. And we chose not to survey the entire campus for timing constraints, but as you can see over here, the area we chose to survey, we thought represented campus in a variety of manners, as it had various parking lots, as well as sidewalks and other areas that we thought represented the entire campus as a whole.
Okay, so what you're seeing here, these are the results of our flight. So we used drone deploy to create what's called an orthomosaic. So basically what you see on Google Maps. And we've outlined in red. I know you're not going to be able to see it super well, but we'll point them out here in a second. These areas in red are areas that we've determined could use greater lighting. We didn't cover the quad. I know it's been very covered in this class, but we're not touching that. So these first areas represent the two big parking lots on, this is the west side of campus. This is Old Main right here. And this parking lot south of Old Main, we've determined is a major problem spot. And John's going to talk about that later. Another group also talked about this parking lot up here. There's some mixed results there because from the sky, it looks fairly dim. From the ground, it seemed okay. So we recommend looking into that one further, but this one we're going to talk about. The next areas are not necessarily for students being targeted, but these are crosswalks on campus that we determined had no light at night and would be potential risk for pedestrians. Car comes zipping around the corner and there's somebody in the crosswalk and they drop their laptop, so they're like, they're just toast. Anyway, so the next areas, these are the only walkways on campus that we determined could use more light. So the other group talked about this area in here having, like, from the sky looks pretty dim. From the ground, there's actually a fair bit of ambient light. Things are still very visible even in the low light. Over here though, there's enough tree coverage that it's very shaded, and it is a walkway that people use, but it's much darker. Now this last area up here, I kind of grouped into this whole area. Up here is all quite dark. And the reason we're not going to go into detail about this is we're not actually sure if it's under campus jurisdiction or if it's leased to private housing, because the whole, what? Okay, because the whole area needs more light. It's dark. I was the VO over there and it was like, I'm all lonely and it was bad. Anyway, so those are the areas. Now John's going to tell us about that problem spot we identified.
Exactly. As Ben said, we kind of targeted this parking lot to kind of be as representation for a lot of the parking lots. Oops, sorry.
Go back.
Yep, there we go. And we outlined here a lot of the dark area that we couldn't really see at night. We decided that this was a problem because when we arrived to go fly, we found a group of people that were about to leave to play a game of Fugitive. And there was about 50 to 100 or so. And it was really tough to see them just, without cameras or anything. It was just tough to see. And you could tell there was a group of people there, but you couldn't really make out who is who until you got like up and close.
The group was standing right here and you cannot see them.
Yeah, this picture here in the top right is a picture we took of the group right before they were about to leave. And as you can tell, they don't really stand out very well in the lighting. To go further into this, we saw that the lights that were there are kind of like gradient as they like spread out. We wanted to test to see how close to the light somebody had to be in order to like actually see them. So I was the target for this. So I stood, in the center picture at the very bottom of the red line at the very bottom was about the edge to the road of the parking lot. And that's where I started. And then I took some steps at a time, and we took pictures along the way to see how close I had to be in order for them to see us. And they were standing around where the top line is. And each of these lines represent the photos as I got closer and closer. Top left, you can't really see me. But you know, in the top right, like you can barely make out my outline. And then as you can see, as I got closer, then you could start seeing me. And that is just too close to where the light actually is. For all where cars are supposed to be parked in this group over here and now on the edge, like it'll be like there's a lot of places people could hide and wait for somebody there.
Now, the last area that we also wanted to talk about was the sidewalks all over campus. And as been pointed out, we actually found that majority of sidewalks were very well lit, like this sidewalk shown here. This is right next to that parking lot that John was just talking about. And as you can see, there are lights spaced out very generously, and the lights are very bright. Save for the few portions that Ben mentioned earlier, when we found that the lighting was very good on almost all sidewalks. And as you can see here, we took a few more pictures of our friend John. And as you stepped away from the lights, although he progressed further and further, and when he stood right in between the two lampposts in the darkest area, you could still see him decently well. Although he's dark, you can still see that there's a person and he's represented there. And so you wouldn't have a problem seeing him as he's moving from one light to another. And for that reason, we found that majority of sidewalks were very well lit.
All right, so in conclusion, our recommendations, that parking lot south of Old Main, we determined needs more light. That is the target area. If you come away with nothing, that area is the problem. The parking lot east of the Big Blue parking terrace, we determined isn't a huge issue, but it bears looking into. And then the crosswalks around the David B. Haight Center and the south of the quad are other areas that are not necessarily risk of being targeted, but are areas that risk management should be aware of. And then certain walkways that were few and far between, and you can find them on the map, could use a street light or two.
Exactly. And our limitations for giving a more accurate and more in-depth account for the problem areas is that we're not really professionals in lighting and safety. So it would be important for risk management to get with somebody who is who's more professional over that, and maybe use some of the equipment they have to look over this again.
All right. Thank you for your time. We will now take questions.